Hi everyone, this is your girl Nikita, and welcome to the Perfectly Powerful You podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Perfectly Powerful You podcast. I'm your host, Nikita, and I trust, hope, and expect that you all are doing superbalicious wonderful, perfectly splendid, and just awesome in every sense of the way as you are navigating this beautiful, wondrous adventure we call life. I'm doing excellent today. I've been feeling inspired, as always. 'Tis why I'm sitting down with you today to talk all about reasoning and perception, because as I've been stepping into and deep diving into even more of the content in my personal life coaching, I've been feeling just very tuned in with the way I've been seeing the world and how much I've been allowing in my life to just promote even more positivity, to promote even more peace, even more wellness, and to really lean into the innate gifts that we as spiritual beings having this beautiful, radiant human experience are gifted with. And I'd like to think, and I would like to also know that we are all very, very magical in our own way. Just the very fact that we have the ability to think very specifically and use our perspective with our big old brains, and to also enact said thoughts with our actions through this vessel that we have. And in whatever way that it looks like for you, in the grand scheme of things, our life is a blip in the whole universe being about 13.8 billion years old. And while we may only get about 100, some of us less, some of us even more, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not a very long time. But with the fact that we actually get to be here and we get to live into every single day the way we choose, the way we would love, I would think that because we don't really know, I would like to think I don't really know why we're here, but one day I was born and here I am. And when I'm learning more and more and more about how connected everything is, connected to each other, just, in everyday interactions, but also very energetically, and how we're all made up of matter, and how we're all made up of energy, and how our energy interacts with everyone around us. It's why I remind myself about how when I walk into a room and I kind of feel the tension, or I feel the happiness, or I feel the radiant love, I can sense that, just like maybe some of you can as well. That you can just walk into a room and you're like, oh, I feel like I want to back out of this because it doesn't feel like it's my vibe. Or you can be interacting with people and you can just know right off the hop whether or not they really, really resonate with you, or if they don't. And I think that especially with me being really more aware of this, the idea that our big old brains are able to sense things and create images and to allow our body to interact with them, it's a wild ride. And so as I've been interacting with the world around me, I've been reminding myself more and more and more that we're all very even people, that we're all equal on this earth, that the reason why a lot of us are either thriving in life or maybe not so much can do a lot with our perspective. And I love to believe that just like someone can look at something like the stars and they can see the Big Dipper, and someone can look at the same stars and see just a smattering of black and white dots, and they don't have to make any sense of it at all. But it's still the same landscape. It's just a matter of how we're looking at it. So today, as I would love to deep dive into our reasoning and perspective, and share with you maybe some ideas or inspiration of how you might want to see the life and your life specifically a little bit differently in order to really transform, well, how you would love to live your life. Because I'll always say that we are so, so deserving of living into the very best life that we can all live into, because we're here and we are now, and we don't know when we're going to be, gone from this earth in the vessels that we have right now. But I believe that we're deserving of living into the most vibrant expression of our life in whatever way that looks like for us. So today, I would love to propose a question. Would you be willing to look at your life and yourself a little bit differently in order to live the life that you would love? And this can be maybe very exciting for you to say, oh my gosh, I can just see myself a little bit differently and I can have everything that I would love. The answer is absolutely. And for some of you, it might be scary to say, I can look at myself differently and then everything is going to change around me. Also true, but it doesn't have to be scary. If you would love it to be scary, sure, make it scary. But I would believe that it is just so wonderful to know that just by changing even the way you look at yourself, you can go from feeling very, very meek to going and feeling so empowered and strong. You can look at the life you have around you and feeling so much lack and insecurity and see from a different perspective the most amount of abundance and love that one can even benefit from. So let's deep dive on into it for those of you who would love to share the story and adventure of changing our perspective a little bit. So, in some of the videos that I have been listening to over and over and over again, one of the things that Bob Proctor mentions is that our perception changes our reality. And Mary Morrissey, in the same video, she goes on by saying that any and every circumstance and or situation isn't necessarily bad overall. It's neither good either. It can be whatever you want to make it. And by allowing yourself to take a moment to, instead of immediately perceiving a situation from an initial trigger, something that comes up in your life, give yourself a moment to pause and allow yourself to see things from multiple perspectives. This allows you a very, very excellent opportunity to not only change the way you see a situation, but also change the way the situation can become something bigger or smaller depending on the way you act in it. So, something that she mentions in the video that I've been listening to is how she gave herself 3 days to change the way she saw, or rather reacted to, a specific situation. So there was a point in her life where someone mentioned to her, if you give yourself the chance to pause, then you allow yourself the chance to save yourself from suffering prematurely and in general, because again, it's our choice to suffer or not. But there was a point in her life where her partner lost his job, and they didn't know where any of the income was going to be coming from. And initially, what came up for her was a paradigm of, if I don't have a job, then I won't have any money. If I don't have any money, then I won't be able to thrive. If I don't thrive, then like I'm not living a great life. And for many of us, that can be like, of course, I have a job. Job allows me to have income. Income allows me to live the life the way I would love. So, what she did after listening to some instruction from someone that she took a lot of, inspiration from, was she just paused and she gave herself 3 days. So, she's like, okay, I recognize that this may not be the most amazing situation, but I also recognize that it is my choice to see this situation from any way that I want it to. Because when things come up, i.e., the loss of a job, more things have yet to be revealed. And when more things have yet to be revealed, it means that we're not able to take in the full spectrum of what is actually going on. We only have, what we see in front of us. But our faculty of perception allows us to see a situation from whatever angle we want to see it from. We can see it from right in front of us, like only what we see. We can walk around the situation and see it from the behind. We can come at it from a different angle. We can go God's eye view and see the whole perspective in the grand scheme of our life. How major am I going to make this? So she gave herself 3 days and she said, 3 days, no problem. We're going to hold this feeling of initial shock, of initial sadness, of initial, like, what am I going to do? Like, what's happening? Panic, suffering, basically. Because again, like, our emotions create feelings in our body. Feelings create chemicals and hormones in our body to flush through. And if there's a lot of, we'll say, negative feelings, a lot of adrenaline, cortisol, over time and compounded, not very great for our immune system and our mind overall. So when she gave herself that pause to say, okay, 3 days from now, I can panic. But until those 3 days are up, how can I see this from a different perspective and allow more good in? And so this is where our imagination comes in as well, because our initial paradigms for when things come up can feel very overwhelming unless we take the time to recognize that one, it is a paradigm. So the initial change of situation can trigger some things for sure, valid. But our ability to pause is a very, very key tool. And I will use it as often as I can, and I'll propose it to all of you. Use your really powerful gift of pausing first before reacting and taking action from a state of that reaction. So, 3 days, she was able to give herself, then she started to panic. I'm joking. No, what she said, even before the 3 days were up, new opportunities came. And I would like to believe that new opportunities came up because they gave themselves the chance to see it from a different perspective. Not only was the job that just happened to come up, the opportunity happened to be there, was even greater than, with even greater money and even greater time and money freedom. And I would like to believe that because of this perspective shift, knowing how powerful our energy is, knowing she gave herself the chance to see more good in the situation. Because if we're casting out good energy, and this is for my highest good energy, and this may not be what I was anticipating, but I trust that it's all for my highest well-being energy, then that is what is going to come back. If we cast out energy of, I'm going to be broke, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, what is going to happen with the kids? Am I going to be able to do this, that, and the other? Like, how am I going to be able to thrive? Then that energy that you're casting out will come back. It's like a boomerang because everything has an equal and opposite reaction, that as we're sending out, it comes back to us. So, our tool of pausing and our tool of perception are very key in situations that come up in our lives where the initial trigger, our initial paradigm, and paradigm meaning just a set way of beliefs and or thoughts that we have integrated into our subconscious. Paradigms can absolutely be rewired, but we must be first aware of them. And to be aware of them, we must pause. And to pause, we must allow ourselves to just breathe through things. And also, education also helps with just recognizing and having some self-awareness. But pausing is a very, very great first step. So after this initial period in Mary Morrissey's life, it began to give her a little bit more faith on, well, just the power of her mind and her body and her actions, and also her perspective. And she goes on by saying in the similar video that regardless of the circumstances, we can choose the way we show up. And this begins to also say that we have the power. There is a part of us that is so free, free and has dominion over every factor of our life, has dominion over how we choose to show up, has dominion over and freedom to think however we want to think. And with that, dominion and freedom over our perspective. And I really found this so inspiring because it's allowed me to again realize that regardless of circumstances, even though sometimes it can be rigorous, that I can feel very triggered. And when things come up, I recognize when paradigms and or old patterns show up where I may feel very scared or feel very nervous or anxious, or I start to get this like heavy chest breathing where I'm really not slowing down. I'm kind of just like um I'm right in the middle of it. The ball's already rolling and I just kind of take the situation. I'm like, okay, panic, panic, suffering, suffering, like this is not okay. I am not okay. Feelings of immense anxiety. And I can only go along this train for so long, and I definitely hop on and off this train until I feel like I am fully aware of what I am doing and the steps I would love to take. And something that really helps me in shifting my perspective when I am deep in a hole of my paradigm that I really feel like I can't get out of it, that there are feelings of and thoughts of just repetition of just like, this is not okay. I am not okay. And one thing that I would suggest to many of you that has really served me well, other than pausing and breathing and reaffirming things, is educating yourself. I think that being able to pull myself out of my own brain and train of thought can be either talking with a friend and choosing to get a new perspective of a situation, reading a very motivational book or empowering book to again give myself a new perspective of my situation, or listening to a podcast or watching a video. Really, we have infinite resources other than the infinite resource that is within us. But should you would love to take alternative perspectives into account, highly recommend, because we're here on this planet and we are not alone, people. We have each other to lean on. And I believe that because we are here to lean on each other, that we can also offer ourselves new perspectives to see a new situation, or rather, a new perspective on our situation that can allow ourselves to take certain action steps in service of our vision, in service of our dream, in service of our highest good, that will allow us to really see that, it actually wasn't a big deal to begin with, or rather, I recognize that maybe how I felt that it was a big deal in the beginning, by chance I can offer myself and you can offer yourself a new perspective to maybe make a really big problem so much smaller than by chance we had thought in the beginning. So pausing, changing your perspective, and allowing others to step into the picture, whether they are right beside you or via the interwebs, to really offer you something more. And I think that you are definitely deserving of that. Something I thought that was a very, very great way of describing how I would love to shape and mold my life is when I was listening to, again, Mary Morrissey. They have been, and Bob Proctor, they have been a very, very big inspiration in my life in these past few weeks. Well, past 2 years, but definitely in the past couple weeks. At She says that perspective allows us to see a situation. Our imagination also allows us to create a situation and or the mold for a life that we want to see. So, one of our amazing faculties, other than perception, is also our imagination. And this really, again, creates a mold for how, pardon me, really creates a mold for how we want to live and see our life. What do we want to see? I can see my life right now from a very specific lens, a very specific perspective, but that's just one. But there are so many more. There's infinite perspectives that we can see one situation because there's an infinite amount of minds on this planet that are going to look at our situation from their perspective, their life experience. So there was one example that I was listening to, and she says that You can imagine a concrete truck just coming down the road, and it has just an immense amount of concrete to be able to mold it into whatever you would love. So, if you don't create a specific mold, it's just going to dump that concrete out and it's going to spill everywhere. It's going to harden and create whatever shape it chooses because you chose not to create a mold for it. And so think of your cement, or the cement rather, as your creative energy and your creative power and your creative mold. So you can just haphazardly dump your thoughts, dump your energy into whatever you want and just see, like, let's see how it goes. Or you can create a mold for your life, depending on your perspective. So you can create a sidewalk, you can create tiny little building blocks to create a cement wall, you can create whatever you would love. You can even create like tiny little like cement starfish. Really, the world is your oyster. It's whatever you want to make it. But when you have this immense amount of creative concrete, so to speak, that you're welcome to continue to operate on the same paradigms and to allow the mold to kind of just, and I hear from a lot of people say, I just go with the flow. And so the concrete's just flowing and it's forming whatever it is or preconceived concepts in your mind because we don't get a choice to manifest. We are really, really powerful beings who are manifesting all the time. And I think that when people have started to use the word manifest, I think there might be a little bit of misconception that it's either a choice or it's not a choice. We are the ones that are creating our life. Everything we see around us is the basically our energy, our time, our thoughts, our actions, all molded into one. We're the ones creating and designing our life, either by design or default. So when the people say go with the flow, it's like dumping a bunch of concrete and saying, let it be, let it set, I'll be happy with it. And then maybe being a little bit angry or sad or having a lot of anxiety about like, that's not what I wanted. We're like, well, you didn't really give it a mold. You kind of just went from preconceived concepts in your mind and just kind of like crossed your fingers and hoped for the best. But you are so much more powerful than that. If you want to make a sidewalk, create an image in your mind and plan it out for a sidewalk. If you want tiny little starfish, create the feeling and image in your mind to create tiny little cement starfish. It is whatever you want to make it. And I'll say that again. Life is whatever you want to make it. Our perception is key for designing it because we can see a situation from however we would love. Again, everything is pretty much neutral. It's just the way we want to think about things. And there's always more going on in the background that's going to allow even more clarity on any situation. But being able to just give yourself the space to create that life allows yourself to create a mold and allows the energy to say, okay, you've given me guidelines, you've given me a syllabus, so to speak. You've given me a form to be able to express this natural creative energy that is always emanating from you, some structure. And that is how you design your life. Bob Proctor goes on by saying that our perception creates our reality. I mentioned that in the beginning of this video, and I would love to touch base on it again because when we're operating on a fixed paradigm, i.e., thoughts and beliefs that we have integrated into our subconscious that we may or may not be aware of, they become our basically dominant mindset. So you can tell what's your dominant mindset by looking out to the world around you. So if there are certain people coming up in your life or certain situations coming up in your life or just things that you're feeling that are pretty much dominating your life, i.e. if there's a lot of lack, scarcity, density, anxiety, fear, look to your subconscious. If there's a lot of happiness, joy, fulfillment, and prosperity, look to your subconscious because these are dictating your life. And again, by pausing, having a little bit of self awareness, and being able to look to your inner world to see what's going on in your outer world, are able to better have a handle on a situation. And perspective allows you to flip paradigms. First, you have to be aware of them. So if you're saying, so maybe you've been operating on a paradigm of, when I don't have a job, then I won't have any form of income, that I'll be broke, destitute, that kind of thing. That's a mindset or belief. Not everyone follows that. Our mindsets and beliefs come from either culturally, either like in our home, in the broader population. They kind of been absorbed from different places, maybe in school, but they had to come from somewhere. Where as babies, we're basically tabula rasa. We don't know anything about the world. We come in and we're just like, wow, what's going on? Didn't realize that people spoke English, Japanese, French. Now I have to learn that. I didn't realize that I'm supposed to wear clothing. Now I have to learn that. I didn't realize that people did this, not the other. Now I have to learn that. So, same thing with your beliefs. However, you choose to view the world from whatever perspective, that is a learned perspective. So, you can take that and run with it however you would love. But getting curious with what actually is going on in your brain is a really great step to realizing that when you're operating on a very specific paradigm and or mindset and or belief, then your view of the world is very limited. But when you allow yourself expansion of your perspective, allowing yourself to kind of like see a situation and or perspective and or circumstance from multiple perspectives, you give yourself a chance to one, change your mindset, two, change and reprogram your brain to create a different dominant mindset, and also to change the way the outcome is actually evolved. So if you're noticing that there's certain things coming up in your life more regularly and they just keep coming up and you keep reacting in the same way, then if you would love to change a circumstance and or situation, you have to change the way you see it first. So same thing with allowing yourself a different perspective by using tools and resources to and or people to allow a different perspective. You can change paradigms and change your operating system in your head by gaining knowledge. Knowledge is a really powerful tool to expand your mind. Many of you may already be doing this either through listening and reading books, or gaining knowledge through life coaching, or asking people that you just are inspired by, because those people are obviously living a very different life from you, or maybe they're living a very similar life from you. But for myself, I look to people who are living the life that I would love to live. And they have the knowledge that I may not have yet. And the reason why I know that their life is different is because their mind and the way they're thinking about things is different. And if I'm inspired by how they're like living their life, I'm like, how did you turn your annual income into your monthly income? Because at the level of fact, I don't have that knowledge yet. I don't have that foundation in my mind yet, but I would love to know, because the more I know, the more I can integrate. The more I can integrate, the more it becomes my dominant mindset. The more it becomes my dominant mindset, the more, even more easily, I can take action in service of my vision that allows me to live my life with even more ease. And I know for many of us, the idea of a very easy life, or rather an even more easy life, ease and flow in our daily workings about, is something we all want. We don't want to work, or at least I prefer not to work 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, and be able to just like scrape money by. No, I would love to know that I don't actually have to work. I love to know that everything is taken care of. Well, like everything literally is taken care of, that I'm taken care of, that I can see my family and friends whenever I would love, that I can travel the world with great ease and just pop on a flight and go and have an adventure, that I can eat whatever foods I want because it's easy for me to grocery shop with whatever I'm feeling inspired to eat. It means that I can express myself in whatever way I would love while also respecting my boundaries of sleep and rest. And for that, it means changing my perspective a little bit because I recognize, I'll say up until now, there has been a mindset that I have to work harder in order to make more. And I'm still reprogramming this. I'll say up until now was far more dominant in my head. And I definitely found myself up until now to be a bit of a worker bee. There was a lot of pride and satisfaction in how hard I chose to work. And I was like, well, if I'm the hardest working person in the room, it means that I am more deserving. It means that I can earn more money. And it means that I can, I don't know, live happier or have more respect or whatever it is. But I know for a fact that there are so many people on this earth that are making millions and billions of dollars, and they barely work a day in their life. They choose to work smarter and not harder. And I would love to be able to incorporate that even more. And so by that, I would also love to offer myself, and for those of you who maybe resonate with this a little, maybe a lot, how we can change our perspective in order to allow even more ease and flow into our life. So, some of the feelings of and the number one feeling actually, that there was a study for the wealthiest people in the world is peace of mind. That was the dominant mindset and or feeling that some of the wealthiest people in the world had, was being able to do whatever you want, whenever you want, because you want to. And if I know, and I know even more, that our dominant mindset and our dominant feeling is the vibration of what we're sending out, we receive back. So, as I was thinking about how can I allow even more ease and flow into my life, and how can I allow even more peace into my life, I was thinking that the aspect and or concept of working harder to make more really feels contradictory to peace, ease, and flow. And it's because that trying harder kind of feels like this energetic feeling of a push. It kind of feels like I have to like work, like there's this feeling of just like pushing into something, this feeling of just like having to try harder, work harder, like there's force in it. Whereas peace, ease, and flow feels like a river or stream that's just naturally flowing in the direction of the easiest path it can take. And that's opposite from like trying to force its way into it. So when I was thinking about that in my own life, because at the level of fact, there have been times in my life where I caught myself in a paradigm of overworking myself, not sleeping enough, and just doing more, thinking that I was going to gain more. But I again recognized and honored myself for one, go Nikki, for just, recognizing that this was a paradigm, allowing myself to work through it, like why and where this has come up, without going into it too much, because I don't have to hash out too much about where it comes from, because I also believe that there's a point in time where that kind of reaffirms things. But I can also just honor and recognize that, okay, I recognize that this is a pattern. Maybe you guys agree and resonate. Do I make agreement with that? And I said, maybe up until now, I made agreement with it. And I say, okay, amazing, great self awareness. Would I love to continue this? And I said, no. I was like, okay, what would I love? Because that's another really great tool to allow more perspective shift, is what would I love? Would I love more peace? Absolutely. Okay, if I knew that even more peace was possible, if I truly, truly knew that I can work even less and make even more, and have more time with my family, have more time with my friends, have more time for adventures. And if I knew that there was a version of myself that was already living this life, because again, it's all a frequency and energy, that I know that there absolutely is a version of me because time is a construct, already living this life. If I can think it, if I can feel it, I know that it's already a thing. So, resonating with that a little bit more, if I knew and would love even more peace in my life, and I knew it was already there, and I knew it was possible, what action step would I take in service of that? And then I just get curious and get cozy and comfortable with just allowing whatever rises up to rise up. And instead of saying, oh, it's impossible, or oh, it would take years down the road, or that, because that all surfaced as well, because that's part of it. Those are also paradigms to kind of keep you down. But if you knew it was possible, if I knew it was possible, what action step would I take? And I would love to offer this to you guys as well when you are choosing to shift perspective and allow yourself the feeling of just pausing, slowing down, asking yourself questions. What would I love is a great question. Would I love this? Would I really, really love this? And I know that it's possible. I know it's for me. Just one action step in service of my vision. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be crazy. It's just if I knew that it was possible and I knew that there was a version of me already doing it, tapping into that person and that person who's already doing it, and just wait for the responses to come and write them down. Circle the ones that feel zingy, circle the ones that feel like they have some spark, and take that action step. Because not only are you signaling to the universe that, okay, I'm ready for something different, then you're allowing yourself to step into that life, that just like you're walking down a street and maybe all you're seeing is the same street you walk down every single day, that if you choose to like turn around, you have a completely different perspective of the street you are walking down. And if you choose to turn around and walk the other path, you're going to see new things. You're going to interact with different people. You're going to see the world from a completely different perspective that's going to offer you new opportunities to continue to walk that path. And it may not be the path for you. You may step into it and thinking you're going to love it. And then there's going to be more evidence, things that haven't shown up yet until you start to walk that path that have yet to be revealed. And once they are, then you can decide, do I love this? Do I not? What else would I love? And continue to ask yourself that question. Because at any point in time, the freedom and dominion that you have over yourself means that you can pause. You don't have to keep sprinting down that same path and being like, okay, bye suckers. Like I chose this path and now I'm going to keep like sprinting down it. You don't have to sprint. You can bike ride if you want. You can saunter. You can skip merrily. You can run for a bit and pause. And then you can like walk for a little bit as well. Like it is your choice. You have so much power and authority over how and in what way you live your life, but and it is totally up to you for however you want to see your life. I would love to leave you on a last parting note and a quote by Wayne Dyer that says, when you change the way you look at a thing, the thing you look at changes. And I would love for you to ruminate over that, should you love, because it really makes a lot of sense that when you choose to see a person, when you choose to see yourself, when you choose to see your vehicle or your work or your life as a whole from a different angle and different perspective, you'll learn that there is so much more going on than maybe you first gave yourself credit for, and that you are so much more than maybe what you gave yourself credit for. And as you are living into this beautiful, vibrant, spontaneous, amazing, radiant life, I would love to know that even if up until now there's been a feeling of not enoughness, if there has been a feeling of too much, if there's been a feeling of scarcity or lack or density, that I would love for you to offer yourself, because you are worthy and deserving of a change in perspective, to see yourself for more than who you are now. Because who you are now is just a reflection of all the thoughts you have been thinking up until now. But if you choose to think about yourself a little differently, choose to give yourself the space and time to reprogram your thoughts, to stop and pause and think and choose gratitude over just being able to live into life a little bit more until such time as we pass on from this beautiful life. Watch the world change around you, because as soon as you change your perspective, the world changes with you. It is a reflection of you, because I'll remind you again, your thoughts are powerful, your energy is powerful. And as soon as you choose to change, the world will change with you, because that's kind of how it works. But I love you all very, very much. Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. I am very happy and excited and joyful to be offering a workbook coming out very, very soon. I have everything fine-tuned, and I would also love to offer a video to help guide you through the workbook as well. So for those of you who would love to have access to this workbook, I'm popping it on my Patreon. It will just be a one-time donation that will offer you the PDF, that will offer you the video, and there will be even more coming out after that. But for right now, for those of you who would love to add more structure to your life, who would love to add more awesomeness to your life in a way that really propels you forward in a much more structured way, then just pop on over to the Patreon. I've linked it down below, and you can have access to that from my inspiration and from the work that I've been doing over the past couple years. And for those of you on whatever platform you're listening to us on, I would also appreciate it for any sort of comments and reviews, and liking and subscribing on wherever you're listening to this on, because it helps in creating even more awesome content. And until then, thank you all for sitting down with me today, and I look forward to talking with you all very soon.
Thank you all for joining me today, because it's my absolute pleasure to be here with you. I'd love to hear your thoughts about today's content and any inspirational words of wisdom you'd love to share. I'd also love if you would leave a 5-star review on whatever platform it is you're listening to this on, because it helps in creating even more awesome content. May your day be filled with only love and light, and I look forward to talking with you all real soon.